Okie. Now, this is not going to be happening again, because now I'm having to revert to my old 7 or 8 year old phone camera. But apart from anything else, the battery doesn't last very long, so I can't take longer films at all anymore. Anyway, I'm wandering around, and I just had a really good line come to me. Painted on ruggedness. Now, you would actually have to live it here. I mean, I'm rugged, but this is me, whether I go to the town, shopping, whatever. Look at that. Typical useless bloody... Anyway, painted on ruggedness. Actually, the Southwest has been fascinating. But although I've made a mistake of even speaking to certain men, especially in Cornwall over a couple of years, yes, I understand how all of social policy, oh, that's a big fancy word, oh no, because you come to live up in places like this because you're above all of that, you're a proper little bohemian anarchist, yeah. Which none of them are. All of them lust after 35 grand expensive new pickups, but painted on ruggedness. I understand why nothing happens, nothing changes. Nobody around here would say, do you know what, there's such a housing problem that the young people for a decade haven't been able to... Well, it's not just a case of they can't afford anything. Listen to file number 10 on libraries. About 3 or 4, well, it's yesterday, what's the date today? 24th of January. 24th? Yes. 23rd, I think I made it. Yes, it was. Painted on ruggedness. If you listen to the libraries thing, none of these men, and the men are the ones who are meant to be the philosophical positive influences, would say to the younger people, and this is actually, I'm actually quite proud of that little audio I made for somebody. You have essentially a tyranny. The tyranny is that the middle-aged, middle classes, now none of these men who've got painted on ruggedness would think of themselves as middle-aged. They're all child men. But they've all got the kind of certain kind of ruggedish clothing, and they've got a ruggedish look. They've what's the word for cultivated the ruggedish looking beard or that ruggedish looking stubble. But it's all painted on. If you were really rugged, you'd be saying to the young people, the 30-year-olds, you are going to have to figure, you're in a tyranny, your generation cannot afford anywhere to live, and if you are going to be paying for somewhere local to live, you're having to work every hour God gives. It's not fair, it's not right. It's almost like we're back in Victorian feudal times even, where you are the ultimate serfs, even if you're given every diversity lanyard and badge, and you're encouraged to go to work wearing a skirt if you're a boy. It's all lovely. But you ain't ever going to get an affordable house. You're never, or unless you're very lucky and have some relatives, you're not going to get accommodation that you're not having to bloody kill yourself to maintain. So yes, if they were really rugged, they'd be saying to the next generation, you have a tyranny. Listen to the voice number 10. You have a tyranny. Now you've got to figure out a way. You, not us, we're older people. You've got to figure a way. And there have been great books in the past. The Zemyatin book, these are allegories, they're parables. I mean, when Zamyatin wrote that, and when Mikhail Bulgakov wrote Master and Margarita, they lived in tyrannies. But in a way, you've got a tyranny just the same in many ways nowadays. So yes, your Zemyatin's, Bulgakin's, even Solzhenitsyn, even though he was a bit more direct. And then George Eliot was dealing with the tyranny. She was actually in Silas Marner, and the rest of her books too, but especially Silas Marner. She was addressing, through literature, a tyranny via a parable of sorts, you can call it what you want, but about how to stick your finger up to power, to the tyranny, and get away with it, and ideally do it with stick your finger up with a clean fingernail. I don't need this something. Yeah, but here's the point. The point is, I mean, occasionally I'll try and bolster. That's the word, not causes. I'm not allowed to have causes. Somebody who I thought was a warrior in her damn horoscope 3 years ago was like, oh no, can't be around somebody who's gets into causes and stuff. It's too much. Which was surprising, but to the point. Yes, bolster. I've just been bolstering a couple of warriors. Now, they are for real, but they will not end up going forward in the way they've said they wished their things to end up. Even though I gave them the idea, kind of. Well, one of them I did, one of them I didn't. And it really is this thing. Why does nothing happen here? Because ultimately, your 50-ish-year-old blokes of the region, who all have painted on, but I'm going to get to my point now, painted on, what was it? Painted on ruggedness. There you go. They know that their 70-year-old father-in-law owns the land, so they know, and they want to access the land. They want to inherit it or be able to use it for a bit of a discount, or the shop or the pub or whatever. So they are so conformist, and yet everything about them is painted on ruggedness. That's what's required to, that's what the women have sort of caused to be the default look, and it's only a look, for the English to see. The Portuguese had that wonderful statement. Right, why have I turned this on? Yeah, but the thing they wouldn't understand, you see, there's only one way to beat this. Not that you can be beaten, it's probably unbeatable. I'm not a fool. I've known this for certainly 3 years, 10 years really. There's only one way to beat it. You see, it's to exactly do what I just done. Now, just sometimes for a few days, or ideally most of the time, I just kind of, forget everybody exists, go for a walk. Failure. Unfortunately, that best ever project, which is getting a library up and running, with the local council libraries, are just this worst temple to nothing other than the Maoist little. I don't even know if they've got souls. Now, I know one librarian who's got a soul, definitely, but yeah, encouraging a better selection, focused in on not, oh, I've got something wrong with me, let's write an Eleanor Oliphant book, to, no, books. So Pereira maintains, Pereira, a magnificent book, How to Struggle On with Guile. No, it's kind of not allowed. I speak to librarians about this kind of stuff all the time. No, it's terrifying. You can literally hear the blue hair. No, most of them don't have blue hair. I'm just a figure of speech, crackling with static, because you've hurt them. The idea they may actually have to A, have some passion, and B, mean it. That endless bullshit that they care about society. It's just all lies. Anyway, back to the point. So the point is this: when you very occasionally, one attempts to just sort of bolster somebody identified as good who's going to take part, and I know they'll fall by the wayside. I know they will. And you're left with zero, nothing. The painted on ruggedness / the dreadful, I mean, every single well, actually, probably not quite High Court judge, but every manager of human resources ends up down here. Pretending, and the problem with this whole, I didn't realise how bad it was. It's almost like anybody 60 and under, they've had a compulsory long stay at Glastonbury Festival on the way, which is the worst load of fake nonsense in the world ever. But That's what it is. When you realise nothing that you've even revved yourself up to say, which is, there's a lovely rub in there, useful rhetoric, in any way matters. You see, that's when I'm just walking up and like this really good phrase comes to me, painted on ruggedness. And about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, with that, for the generally the women, but no, look, Charles Eisenstein, John Topenhart, there you go, 15 years ago, right? Their ashram smiles. And it all is literally a black hole of them. They're desperately lonely, of course. They haven't achieved anything. They know they never will achieve anything that is original, that is a genuine good in society for the common good, rather than their own little, well, it's all, if you're a bloke, all of it's all about, we've got to keep in with certain women in a certain way, and there's a certain playbook that you've got to adhere to. Otherwise, you'll just be... Yes, but I was walking up thinking, it just came to me, painted on ruggedness. You see, now that, it's not very good really, but it's a kind of creativity. I couldn't do that 15 years ago, and I shall, if I remember, but I got hundreds of them. I shall incorporate it in something, if I ever have enough money, to just settle down for a year and write a few small novella type books. Punchy, poignant, using parable. I have so many parables now collected. Parables is too big a word, of course, because you'll be painted on rugged too. Okay, let's see. All of these words, I've been having these chats with certain blokes. They find it so like it's a little javelin in their heart or their whatever when you use something that's slightly poetical. No, that's because they're so one-dimensional. I mean, they are from the book, I forget the writer, I think it's called Flatland. It's that also is a wonderful parable or a kind of allegory, and that's what we have. But you see, it's not about harnessing it. It's not about, in a way, it's about totally accepting the absolute flat-landedness, one-dimensionality, total two-facedness, which suggests two dimensions. No, it isn't. Two-facedness is the cause of one-dimensionality. Ultimately, I'm talking about in terms of philosophy and philosophical thinking, critical thinking, real out-of-the-box thinking, not stupid, silly out-of-the-box thinking, and certainly not. Anyway, let's not go down the road of what is the definition of a conspiracy theory. Anyway, the end. But yeah, it's such a positive thing. I managed to get into such a positive space. It's almost as if, but it's been going on for years. But when there is a blanking, a ghosting, a behaviour that you know is just, it's over the line, the net result is that something comes to me, and I do not consider myself special, that I find a wonderful positive, and that's how you beat them. But you've got to prove it. So I've got to write some poems that end up, or poetry never changed anything, write a few things that end up being recognised as meaningful. Funny thing is, you see, actually, that's how you really beat them. I am the least masochistic person in the whole world. I am not a masochist. I am always centered and at peace. And I just like to walk for several hours and get into a meditative state, often talking to myself as I go, as I have been for 15 years. I love it. But the point is, the way to actually win is for it to be known that not one ignorant, rude, arrogant or just downright duplicitous sentence, notion, in any way gets to one. In fact, it's the reverse. It kind of adds, it all adds to a rather wonderful net result of I just persist, and sometimes some groovy thought comes along, which I enjoy. It's not for anything. Can't really, well, blah blah blah. The end, but it's not an unhappy end. That's the point. Hello, little Robin. This hasn't even got a zoom. This one, does it zoom? Nope, doesn't zoom. There you go.